Sanam. Good morning. This is Ram Christian Singh. Today I'm going to talk about the framework of cultural detox, which is the first aspect of this science. Three aspects are framework, cultural detox process, and then the wholeness education or attunement process. So the framework piece is what creates a context for our experience, and it allows us to see through a lens that lines up with it's an angle of perceiving reality, what we experience that is harmonious with universal truth. It takes in my studies of the different traditions, I found that Buddhism really has a very essential teaching that all other traditions essentially have within them, but it might not be as clear. And so that's what the context, that's what the framework really draws from, is the Buddhist perspective to understand our experience. So 4 parts to the framework. The first is that there is dis-ease, that dis-ease exists, that this experience of unsatisfactoriness or incompletion or whatever it might be, it exists. That's the first piece. And so the other side of that, the polarity which I like to frame, is that all of life is the fullest expression of source in this moment. We could say of love in this moment, but it creates this framework and this context that life is not lacking anything. It's complete and it's perfect, and it's a sacred, interconnected mandala of complete wholeness, that there's nothing left out, and every aspect and nuance is perfect beyond our comprehension. So that's an aspect. It's sort of like a belief to take into account, but to me that holds those 4 other pieces that I'm going to talk about. So we have that. Dis-ease exists. Dis-ease is just the experience, it's the indicator, it's the notice, it's the communication that something is out of alignment, that there's a disconnection. And it's just a notification that that's happening. And dis-ease can be very slight, it can be very pronounced, it can be in many different dimensions, meaning it could just be a physical complaint, it could be a mental, an emotional, whatever level it is just a pointing. It's saying, look at this, look at this, look at this. There's something here that is out of alignment. There's something going on here. This is drawing our attention, and that's a natural experience. When we experience something that is dis-ease, it calls our attention, and what normally happens in that situation is we try to avoid it. And that leads us to the second framework component, which is that there's a cause to dis-ease. So dis-ease, this experience that something is not quite perfect, is caused by essentially our disconnection from the moment through wanting more or less than what is. And this is the cause of all dis-ease, because experience in itself is neutral, and the function of unpleasant experience or dis-ease is to look at something so that we can learn from it, we can grow, we can correct it. It's helping us. It's an indicator, because our natural state is a state of balance. When something starts to go out of balance, then we get natural indicators that show us, okay, something's out of balance here. We should look at this. We should course correct. We should do something to create the balance once again. Otherwise, what's going to happen is we're going to topple over. That happens in many aspects of our lives when our lives aren't balanced. And when our lives are completely out of balance, then we experience great amounts of disease. And there's a distinction here. There are many dimensions to this framework. One of them is an inward dimension. The other one is an outward dimension. So if disease manifests on an outward dimension when conditions are not in harmony and alignment. Disease manifests on an inward dimension when we are wanting more or less than what is. Okay? So that's essentially the cause, and it creates a disconnection from reality. So the reality is the reality of this moment, whatever that is. It can be pleasant, it can be unpleasant, it can be neutral, it can be whatever it is. But the reality of the situation is truth. If we can be in touch with that and just rest in that and allow that truth to continually dance and unfold in this moment and completely be in touch with that reality, then we're in a sense connected. There's a connection there. There's a union there. When there's an inner movement, I like it, I don't like it, and then this process of I want something more to fill me, or I don't like this experience, I'm trying to get away from it. In that moment, there's a reaction that's happening. There's a tension that's happening. On many levels, there's a tension, but physically it's manifesting too. There is a stress that's happening. It's creating that dis-ease, that sense of deep unsatisfactoriness in that moment. But we're creating that through our own disconnection with reality, through our own process of dreaming, essentially. So in that moment, when we're wanting something more than what is, it creates this dream reality that we're living in, is becoming. This sense of things are changing, it's going to be different, it's going to be better. Essentially it's a dream, but it's floating, it's disconnected from reality. So in that sense, we're not necessarily being awake in the moment. When we're in touch with what's going on and we're completely at ease in the moment with what's going on, we are in a woken state. When we're seeking more or less than this moment, it's a state of becoming, and it's a state of being caught in the momentum of reactivity. And that reactivity never ends. It's a cause and effect chain and a reaction trying to get away from or get based on preferences, based on conditioning, based on likes and dislikes that we've learned from childhood. It's a dream. It's a disconnection from reality. Okay? So most of the time, human beings are going through their life, but they're dreaming, they're asleep, because we're not in this present moment. We're not holding the spaciousness of presence and wakefulness to be able to experience the reality, to have that intimacy of a connection, to be able to express the authenticity of that timeless truth of our consciousness that is our true identity. So we're in this mind state of trying to get away from something or trying to get something. And that mind state is driving the whole life. Okay, so it's a sleeping state. The mind is driving the show. The body is following the orders of the mind, the soul, or the consciousness is just sort of being pulled around by this whole process. An awakened state is one of presence and being able to experience the pleasant and the unpleasant in a present, spacious, neutral way, where we can hold with the container, essentially, with the presence of our awareness, we can hold whatever the experience is. And that experience is essentially used. We can understand our experience as a way to how can we serve life. So that's more a little bit later. But third part, there is a fading away of this sense of dis-ease or lack of completion. Dis-ease, in a sense, another way of explaining it is its disconnection from reality. The cause of it is just wanting more or less and going into a dream state where we're disconnected from reality. We're just basically floating and living in this totally mental, reactive bubble. The fading away of this ease is the connection with reality. So essentially, what we talk about in cultural detox and this whole science, we talk about gratitude, is the connection point. If the cause of disease is desire, we're flipping that polarity and we're saying gratitude. And gratitude is an authentic expression of the heart. It's a virtue of love. It's a virtue of the heart, authenticity. But it's an expression of thank you for the perfection. It includes the seeing that all things are perfect. And it goes beyond that, and it allows there to be an authentic giving back to that perfection. And in that seeing, in that movement, it is an upliftment of whatever the moment is offering. So in a sense, it's a way of serving life. So gratitude is a very, very potent and powerful feeling. It's not a mental idea. It's not just like, thank you for this. It's not just a word. It's not just a calculation. It's a feeling. And when we can shift moment to moment from being in this calculating mindset of what can I get out of this, or I don't like this, I'm trying to get away from it. It's out of that trying to get or get rid of mindset because things are not perfect, to a place of everything is perfect. Everything is the perfect expression of source intelligence right here and right now. There's nowhere to go that is more or less full than right now. This is it. We shift from a place of reaction into a place of presence, authenticity, and service, just through our being, just by radiating gratitude, just by living from that space. So, the cessation of disease on the outward plane, we'll talk about that later. The inward plane is when we just shift our attitude, essentially. We shift the way that we're relating to the world. In the head, essentially, calculating, trying to get more or less, trying to achieve from that survival mode of I need, to this place of I'm whole, I'm full, I see the perfection in all, and I'm grateful. That shift right there is the end of disease. And one really cool teaching the Buddha gave is that the true Dharma, which is the path, which is the way of nature, the true way of things, is that in the beginning, you experience benefit. In the middle, you experience benefit. In the end, you experience benefit. So just by shifting and trying it right now, you can experience a degree of peace. And that's the beauty of this practice. Because the more fully that we engage moment to moment with a continuity of gratitude, we change the way that our chemistry, neurology, all of the physical aspects of our being work. so that we come out of a reactive way of being that creates an inherent tension, that creates a sense of separation, to reconfigure the biology, which is the root of our experience that we're perceiving reality through. So if this biological instrument is configured in a way that's constantly reactive and creating stress, it's going to inherently create a sense that there's something wrong. Because that's just the nature. That stress is an indicator that something is wrong. What's going on is that we're creating that in a very subtle way. By shifting, we experience the change immediately. We create the change within our biological instrument, and then that perceiving instrument, perceiving and expressing instrument is not under stress anymore. And we experience, oh, there's no more distortion or noise in that instrument, and I feel like I'm a much more present and engaged and capable individual to interact within this world of time and space, but from a place of timelessness, from a place of consciousness, from a place of sovereignty, from a place of wholeness. I'm more empowered because that noise is not distorting those perceptions or my expression anymore. The fourth part of the framework is the path, essentially. And so the path is, I've talked about how that there's like no path, because what I just described to you is no path. It's a presence, it's an immediate experience, it's a right here and right now is where there is to be. The path is the conditions, essentially, that lead to the unconditioned. It's the way to reconfigure this biological instrument that operates within time and space. It's the conditions to put things back into order in order to be the embodiment of that authentic presence, and that gets encoded within the biological instrument so that it all operates as like a seamless expression or emanation. And there's not any division. There's not like a soul, a mind, and emotions, and a body. It's just this one seamless blending together wholeness that expresses itself like a light projected on a screen. The material embodiment is just a pure emanation because the distortion is eliminated through this process. So the fourth part, I'm going to have to talk about that in another video in detail. But the essence of it is, and again, I'll go more into this when I talk about the inner dimensions, which is the culture detox process, essentially. Well, there's a lot to it, and I'm continuing to codify to really get the teachings, the science into more like precise ways of delivering it, to explain it, to share it. But anyway, there's inner dimensions, there's outer dimensions to all of these, there's many angles to all of these. But in a nutshell, a path consists of, one, the framework. That's the first piece, is the framework, understanding the framework of how it all works, understanding the path. Two, the attitude, gratitude, or virtue, which we'll talk about as we continue to flesh things out. Gratitude is what I like to share to relate to the world with. When we are not in a place that we can relate to gratitude, we start with forgiveness. There are 6 virtues to choose from to address the moment, to help us to dissolve any sort of densities, to work through whatever we're encountering, to express the authenticity of that timeless consciousness of our soul shining through the heart and through the virtues of the heart. So attitude, any of those virtues, but we'll say gratitude, because that's the simplest one. The conscious communication, character, lifestyle, service, lifestyle and service. There's presence and awareness. There's the work. And then there's wholeness. So those are the pieces of the path. We'll have to talk about them another time. But I hope this gives a nice basic framework. We will continue to refine the way that we share about it and just the essence and the whole point of this distillation process is to get to the essence of things and just be able to share the essence of things. When we talk about cultural detox, we need to be able to frame our experience in a place that does not have any attachment to conditions. We're going to work with conditions. When we're working with the cultural detox process, it's all about creating balance. There's another part of the science called elemental art, which is working with the elements and how every material experience that we have, actually any experience that we have, is elemental by nature. Source divides itself and divests itself through the elements, and it's all about creating balance in our lives. So elemental arts is another aspect of this. I hope this is a good place to start. Thank you for tuning in today about this topic, and I look forward to the next piece. Maybe tomorrow, or the next video will be about the cultural detox process itself. Thank you. Stop now.